Hey everybody, welcome to the Realistic Prepper, show number 7. I'm Jack McLean, my co-host David Banther.
Hello.
Coming to you from frigid Middle Tennessee right now. If any of you know about what's going on here, we're in the middle of an ice storm, and or I should say we're feeling the after effects of an ice storm. They promised us a bunch of snow, instead we got 3 inches of ice over everything and 2 inches of snow to cover that up. So.
Well, this is frigid Florida as well, Jack. Tonight's the coldest night in 3 years in Florida.
Frigid Florida.
30 degrees possibly.
Oh man, 30 degrees. Right now it's about 50 degrees here in my office, and it's 10 degrees outside, and it's supposed to be, I think, -7 tonight. So yeah.
You can keep that, Jack. I'm good.
I tell you what, it really makes you. Well, we'll do a show on this at some point, but there's been several families just in my neighborhood that have been without power for a couple of days, and there's a family right down the road from me. They have a small child. She's about 7 months old, and their power was out for 24 hours. And I told them they're welcome to come stay with us, and they ended up going to stay at a motel. But that's a little on the ridiculous side. Power being out for 24 hours, and you got a child that young. So it just goes to show you need to be prepared for stuff.
Exactly. Like it's everyday occurrences, and especially, if your threat assessment is winter, is snow, is ice, you got to have preparation for that. And then if you have kids, you got to double those preparations. So,
and that's what we talk about here is being realistic with your preps. And this is something that, an ice storm, it's not an every winter occurrence here, but we had a major ice storm back in '94. There was another one back in the early 2000s, and then this is the third major ice storm we've had here. And so it's going to happen again. It's one of those things that is predictable. It's definitely going to happen again. There have been how many deaths already on I-40? I think already like 12, 13 people have died out on. They got stranded on the interstate. And this is one of those. This is a preventable thing. We recommend common sense preps and for stuff that is going to occur, and that's what we're all about here. And today's show we're going to be talking about medical preps.
Medical preps.
We're going to break it up a little bit from the combatives. We're going down that line, and then David had the idea. We would kind of break it up a little bit so people don't get too burned out on that.
Yeah.
And so today is going to be about medical preps. Truth be told, David's preps, and as far as medical, are a lot more extensive than mine. So he's going to be doing, I'm sure, the majority of the talking about this. We're going to have a little bit of show and tell, and
so gotta have show and tell. Guys, this is big boy show and tell.
So that's what we're going to be doing today. David, you want to get us started a little bit about some medical training?
Sure. And really, the point of this podcast, if you're watching and or listening, it's not, okay, Jack and David are going to tell me how to do X, Y with first aid. That's quite the opposite. The point of this podcast is to pique your interest and into what you don't know. And we all don't know a lot when it comes to medical, especially if you don't work in that profession every day. So the various topics we're going to cover in this podcast episode is meant to spark your interest and encourage you to seek further training, seek out further gear and further knowledge. The first topic we're talking about today is just getting medical training. A lot of us, my training started when I was in Boy Scouts. I am an Eagle Scout. And first aid's huge in Boy Scouts. So you learn the basic stuff, basic trauma, stopping bleeding, wilderness first aid, etc. And then, so I had that. I've had some trainings. I'm a volunteer with the county, with my county, which I mentioned for a ham radio in case of a hurricane. So I've gotten the basic, American Red Cross first aid training, American Red Cross CPR training, both of which I need to renew.
Nice.
Those are available at your local fire department. I know a lot of health clubs that do it. So if you have done no training whatsoever, if you're just saying, hey, I just know my basic life skills for first aid, start at the very base and get those basic first aid trainings done. Once you have that, then you can branch off to kind of more what you're interested in. Myself, YouTube is a great source. I have taken to YouTube to learn, and YouTube can be dangerous. You want to be careful who you're watching. But I've taken to YouTube a lot to learn more of the combatives first aid, gunshot wounds, etc. But I still need to seek out in-person training on that. But the training I have taken is from the Patriot Nurse, and her link is down below, along with some other links. This is the one podcast and show where you need to look at the notes down below. We're linking you off to a bunch of people that know a whole of a lot more about this than we do. And I've taken Patriot Nurse's medical prep class 101 and 201. She's not so much first aid, like putting on a band-aid or stopping bleeding, but how to be that first responder in a grid down scenario. And there's a ton of other on YouTube. I think it's called Dark Angel Medical. There's the Skinny Medic. A ton on YouTube. So I encourage you. All those links are down below. Go to those different respective sites. Ton of informational videos they have for free, and then kind of think about where you want to go from that with your training. So, as I was telling Jack when we were pre-gaming yesterday for this show, I said, you build that foundation with your basic first aid knowledge, and then, like I said, you branch off to the advanced first aid that applies most to you, your job, your hobbies. For me, it's grid down and combative. So, I go to the gun range. Accidents happen, okay? So I make sure I have the proper medical supplies with me at the gun range to respond to a gunshot wound. And I know that even though I have online educated myself with that, I still need to seek out professional training on that. And that's on my to-do list. So I'm sure, Jack, your model is kind of the same as far as how you approach training.
It is. The thing is, that's one of the areas where I can look at myself and I can say that's my weak point. There's a couple of weak points that I've found in my game in the past. I've been getting real introspective in the past several months about how much do I actually know and where my weak areas are. Medical preps is definitely one of my weak points, and they offer a class here in Tennessee. It's a medical prep class. It's offered by a company called Tactical Response. I'm sure most of you have probably heard that in the prepper community and tactical community. I've been thinking about signing up for that, and also if the Patriot Nurse happens to be coming through, I've heard good things about her. Not just from you, but just all over YouTube. I've heard good things about the Patriot Nurse. So I would definitely like to go through her two classes. And I think here's the thing: you have to take an honest assessment of yourself, see what your weak points are. I know that's mine. And then go out and get the training and seek out professionals that do this. It's good to, like David said, you kind of got to be careful who you watch on YouTube. There's a lot of good information on YouTube. There's also a lot of crap on YouTube. So you have to your best bet is find out who the professionals recommend you watch on YouTube. And I'm sure the Patriot Nurse has people that she would recommend that you watch. Hey, here's some good information. This guy knows what he's doing. That guy doesn't know what he's doing. Find out who your people are that you need to be watching, and go there for your training. Like David said, we're not here to try to show you, okay, here's how you do this. We're here to make you aware of, hey, this is probably one of those necessary things that you need to know. And we're not saying everybody on here needs to be, a nurse or a paramedic certification or anything like that. But basic medical preps, there's just no substitute for it. When it's all said and done, you can have a lot of abilities, and you can have a lot of combatives, a lot of training, a lot of tactical training with your weapons, etc. But when you're hit, when you're bleeding, when you get cut, that's a far more likely scenario. You're far more likely. I know a lot of people, myself included. The majority of my training has been in weapons, tactics, and combatives. But truth be known, I'm far more likely to come up on a car accident that just happened than I am to ever be in a firefight. Now, let's be honest, you're far more likely to have a medical emergency at home than you are someone breaking in your house and you having to shoot that person.
Exactly.
So, look at your more likely scenarios, and that's what really got me to thinking about, that's one of my weak points, and definitely seek out some good quality training. And even if you don't go big into it, even if you don't branch out and specialize into one area or another, at least get some basic training, basic CPR, how to stop bleeding. Now, I did receive a lot of this training when I was a correctional officer, police officer, but it was very very basic. And basically what we were told at the end of it was, call the professionals. That's what we were basically told at the end of the course, which was basically 2 8-hour courses back to back. Basically, we were told at the end of it, call the professionals, and that's going to be your best bet. But I think everyone needs a little bit. I mean, the bare minimum CPR and basic medical, how to stop bleeding and such.
I think too, Jack, and I shared this with you. I think I texted you on Sunday or Monday. You never know when you'll be the first responder, and that's actually a phrase that if you watch The Skinny Medic. Right. He concludes his videos with that, and that's true. Not even in a grid down scenario where you have to first respond to very, very threatening things that are meant for the ER, but just everyday life. Right. I was in church on Sunday, and a lady fainted.
Excuse me.
And I didn't have to go revive her, but I got out of my pew, went around. She kind of came back to, assess her, made sure she had no trouble breathing. I said that to the woman next to her, can you hold her up? I'll go get one of the priests. We're going to call 911. So you get in that mode where you don't just sit and watch the accident happen. You know when it is appropriate and when you can respond and what your limits are, what your abilities are, and then to act on that. Because you never know with your family, with your child. Again, great example too of this. This lady that fainted. My church is literally 2 football fields away from the fire station.
Okay.
It took EMS, which where we live is the firefighters. It took EMS. It seemed 10-15 minutes to show up.
Right.
Now that wasn't because they're bad. It's because they had 4 calls at once in my town. And that was a normal Sunday morning. There wasn't any huge catastrophe. I just got 4 calls at once. So you never know when you're going to need help. You're number 4 on that list, and you have to respond. So that's why getting this training and getting in this mindset is important.
And you're, like David said, you're far more likely. I hate to see it, and I've seen this time and again. I've watched YouTube videos, and I've seen it in person, where there will be an accident or an incident where if anyone there had basic medical training, they could help. But you'll see 10, 15, 20 people just standing around with their hands in their pocket looking at everybody else because they're helpless. They have no idea what to do. They have no training, no basic medical training at all. And they're just, I have been present during car accidents, like literally 5 feet away from a really bad car accident when it happened. And this has happened to me, I'd say at least a dozen times.
Oh yeah.
and nobody, very few people seem to, they don't know anything, and if they do know anything, they're in shock. And then there's always that one person who has some training, who has been through some training. He'll stop, he or she, they get out, and it's like, okay, here's what you're gonna do. You call 911. You get me a blanket. You get me this, and you need to be that person. You need to be that person. You need to be able to be that person if the professionals can't be there or until the professionals get there.
Exactly.
So that's kind of what we're trying to put out there. That's the message we're trying to put out. Does everybody need to be a nurse, or does everybody need to be a doctor or a paramedic? No. But basic medical training. I mean, if nothing else, look up the Patriot Nurse or someone like her that can offer you some good solid training. Go pay for a 1 or 2 day course, and if that's all you ever get, if that's as far as you ever want to take it, that's fine. But that right there puts you ahead of 95% of the population. Right there. It's huge.
Well, you want to talk about our different kits, Jack, and what we got going on?
Let's go ahead and talk about the difference between the IFAC and the what we affectionately refer to as a boo-boo kit.
Boo-boo kit, yes. So basically, a boo-boo kit is what probably most of us have in our homes and a decent amount in our cars. I'm in my office right now. When I came back from a Rotary, I went to the sink. I actually needed a little alcohol wipe, and I went to our sink here in the office and pulled out our little boo-boo kit. This is a Walmart whatever boo-boo kit. I actually combined 2 kits into one.
What, about $5 or $10 at Walmart?
Yeah, this is cheap. This is less than $20. And, basic things that you'll need for boo-boos. This is not going to stop a traumatic bleeding, but this could stop, your everyday basic first aid problems. And keep in mind, not to go off on tangents here, but a small cut left unprotected can cause infection. So don't think, oh, I'm a big man, I got a little cut, who cares? No, you need to get that cleaned out and have a Band-Aid on there. So this is a boo-boo kit. Very important to have, kind of your level 1, your very basic first aid, especially with children. I was telling Jack, my daughter, if she goes outside, she will scrape her knees. So I have 2 in my car, at least one in my wife's car, and in my house, my boo-boo kit is actually a tackle box that I converted into just a big-ass version of this.
Nice.
Now, disclaimer, I kind of go overboard on this stuff, but this is an area of prepping that I just like.
Right.
On my person, or my EDC bag, which is always with me, or in my truck, I carry these 2 things. This right here is basically a step up from a boo-boo kit. This I put together myself. It's a Maxpedition mini EDC organizer. In the front pocket, I have some Quick Clot and a mouth-to-mouth CPR guard. They now kind of just encourage to not do mouth-to-mouth, but I have that there in case. And inside, just some basic items: gloves, masks. You've got to have gloves, people. You don't know whose blood you're touching. Basic supplies that might be a little step up from a scrape, more of a deep cut or something. And then I have this is some 3M heavy-duty first aid tape that the patient nurse was selling at her training. Nice. So again, the step up from the boo-boo kit. Now this is you call it the IFAC. I call them the blowout kits. This is when Humpty Dumpty needs to be put back together. This is gunshot wound.
I have one of those coming. I ordered mine from AR 500 Armor months ago, and they have like an 8-month back order on those because they ran out of the Quick Clot. But I actually have one of those coming, and it actually fits on the side of my plate carrier. So.
They're probably using it. They're ran out. I think I know, Jack, which there's a certain kind that's hard to come by now. It's probably the one they got.
Right.
So what this is, and again, this is ITS Tactical, but there's many other brands. Pull this open. Now mine is in a sealed container here, and in this is Quick Clot Combat Gauze, which Quick Clot, back in the day, used to be a powder you pour in a gunshot wound, and Jack, coagulate it's called. It basically stops the bleeding. Right. Now it's a gauze that you pack into the wound. A SWAT T tourniquet. A tourniquet is very important to have. Even if you lose a limb, you can save the life.
By the way, that's a very controversial topic right there. We could do a whole show about that.
Yeah, but I'll risk it myself. That's fine. And then a pair of gloves. You guys, you can't have enough gloves. Okay, that just goes without saying. So that's those are 2 versions of that kit. I'll show briefly now just what I keep in my truck, which is kind of like that on steroids. So this is, I told Jack, this was actually 9 months in the making.
That's a nice kit.
The bag itself is I actually bought this from a guy on YouTube. His name escapes me real quick, of course. Sherman, he has some numbers after his name. Great guy. I'll link him down below. It's just a Condor red bag, and he actually souped it up with these, not glow in the dark,
reflectors.
Reflective. Thank you, and some paracord. Made it tactical. So this has basically more boo-boo kits inside, more gauzes, more bandages, but the Mac Daddy's in the front. This is the king of all blowout kits. You basically pull that down, and you take this out. This is from ITS Tactical, but again, you can get this from many different vendors. This has Quick Clot Combat Gauze, a decompression needle, the device where you can create a new airway if their mouth and nose cannot breathe.
Right.
Z-fold dressing, more gloves. It has the chest seal, which it goes in the front and the back for a gunshot wound. Elastic bandage, pressure dressing, combat casualty card, lubricating jelly, and a pencil. Again, this is like basically your IFAC, your blowout, whatever you want to call it. This I keep in the truck for those emergencies that I might roll up on. And I'll touch on this now, Jack, and you can expand on this. I personally, I don't know how to use everything in here, but I'm of the mindset that I'm willing to have the gear because I bet you somebody nearby me is going to know how to use it.
Right,
just like I was telling Jack.
Right, that is a controversial topic. It really is. I know there's some people, especially on YouTube. Well, let me back up. There's always somebody on YouTube that's got something negative to say about anything you do. It doesn't matter what you're doing. But there's some controversy about should you carry all this stuff that you don't really know how to use. And David's philosophy on it, and mine as well, is that yeah, maybe you don't know how to use everything that's in that bag, but the chances of somebody coming up on the scene at some point who does and doesn't have that gear is very great. And my example for that was my daughter is a nurse. Okay, she didn't carry around any equipment with her. I think she's got maybe a small first aid kit she carries in her car, but she's a nurse. She knows her stuff. My wife's ex-husband, he's a paramedic. He knows his stuff. But the chances of him having all his gear with him everywhere he goes, every time he goes somewhere, is very slim. If you have that stuff and one of these people happen on the scene, they know how to use this stuff, and you just helped by having them, providing them with the gear that they know how to use, and you could probably save a life with that. Just because you don't know how to, and that's not to say you can't learn. You can take classes on this stuff.
Absolutely,
too. But
absolutely.
You don't necessarily have to know how to use everything that's in that kit for it to be of some assistance in a life or death or a shit hits the fan type situation.
And one thing I want to show too, Jack. Well, first I do have my CPR mask on here. Again, I know they're actually changing that. You don't do mouth to mouth, but right. I still have it on there. What's important too is on each side I have a kind of a medical cutting device. This is a Leatherman Raptor shears. It's actually scissors that paramedics carry, and it's made for cutting off clothing.
Right.
And then I have a Gerber. It's like a Gerber EMT knife. It can open oxygen tanks, and what those are both cutting devices that are made to come in contact with a person and cut their clothes off without harming them. If you have, now again, anything's better than nothing, but if you roll up on the scene, you needed to cut somebody's clothes off, it's best to use a knife that is made for that, so you don't risk harming the person further.
Right, and there are some pocket knives and various other things that you can get to cut off seat belts and stuff like that. It's the same principle. You want to cut the material off without cutting the person.
Exactly.
And they're not really... You need to be careful anytime you attempt to do something like that. You don't want to cause further injury to somebody than what they already got going on. If they're in a car accident, you go over there, you're going to be a good Samaritan, cut them out of the car, cut them out of the seatbelt or whatever. The last thing they need is for you to come over there and injure them further because you have one of these, tactical blades, that's really not meant for that particular thing. It's not to say you couldn't press it into service. There's just better tools made for it. Let's put it that way.
Exactly, and that's why I have that on there. So again, I'm not saying everyone needs to go out and get these same kits that I have. Everybody does need this, the basic boo kit.
Right.
But once you start seeking your medical training beyond basic first aid, talk to your instructors, do your research online, YouTube, etc. Find out what kind of the next level gear you need for what you're going to be most exposed to and involved with, and go from there. I go a little overboard for being a civilian with no professional medical training, but the medical prep side is just a little bit more passionate about. So I guess it's the Boy Scout in me, but
right.
Definitely, that stuff can get very expensive. This was about a year project financially for me,
right.
And so definitely make sure you're getting stuff that you want to get, that you need to get, and that you can learn how to use. But like we said, you don't have to know how to use everything, because, like me, truth be told, I can hardly hammer a nail sometimes. But if you saw my tool bench, you'd think I'm Mr. Fix It. That's why when my uncle comes over, or my brother-in-laws that are Mr. Fix It, they got all the tools they need to do the projects I need to get done. So I apply that same principle to having my medical preps.
Right, and I think that's a good idea. And truth be known, like I said, David's medical preps far exceed mine. Basically, my medical preps are as follows. And this will lead us into our next topic. But I have one of those what do you call the Walmart boo-boo kit. It was like, I don't know, $10. Comes with all the your band-aids, your gloves, your basic stuff. I think some gauze, some medical tape, and maybe some antibacterial cream, some headache meds, stuff like that. Real basic boo-boo kit. And the only reason I got that is to keep in my my bag that I take to my jiu-jitsu academy. And what brought the realization of that was we had an accident one time. A guy he either got cut or he got his toenail or something tore off on the mat, and he's bleeding all over the place. And we had just switched locations. This was like 4 or 5 years ago. and nobody had a first aid kit. And of course, we improvised and we got him patched up. But that right there, just the realization, somebody could really get hurt in here, and we have no, just little boo-boos, that'll set you off the mat. So that night I went to Walmart and, $10, whatever, 12, whatever it was, and I got a little boo-boo kit just to keep in my bag. I also have a bigger version where he took you have the doubled up kit. I keep one of those, kind of like a doubled up kit with a few little extras that I've thrown in over time, extra medications, painkillers, stuff like that, and I keep that in my car. So I have two there. My gym bag is always in the house if I'm here, so that's the first aid kit for here. Plus we have like I guess kind of a cobbled together kit that we put together ourselves that we keep in the house. And that brings me to my next our next topic here is having extra meds on hand. We try to stay away from the word stockpiling anything, because it kind of brings negative when you look at like the Doomsday Prepper show or whatever. A lot of times stockpiling, just the word stockpiling, can bring kind of a negative reaction to people. But as simple as this. Every time I go to Walmart or a Sam's Club or something, they have these bins of meds that are extra cheap, and they're generic name, whatever the house Walmart brand is, Equate brand, whatever. If you look at the ingredients, it's the exact same thing. If it says 500 milligrams of acetaminophen, that's Tylenol. That's all it is. If you look on the back of Tylenol, it'll say the ingredient is 500 milligrams of acetaminophen. Acetaminophen, buy it in it. You can get it for cheap. You can get it for 88 cents. Same thing with Naproxen. All Naproxen is Aleve. The Aleve is the name brand for it. They sell it for cheap. You can buy Aleve and you can pay $15 a bottle for it, or you can buy Naproxen, which is the same thing, 200 milligrams of naproxen sodium. It's the exact same thing, 88 cents. So $15, it's the exact same ingredient. One of them has a name brand, one of them doesn't, and it's cheap. Same thing with ibuprofen. David and I were talking about this the other day. You can get 1,000 ibuprofen for next to nothing. And I mean, that's something that really comes in handy. I mean, I know I go through a lot of it. My family, my daughter does gymnastics. She's always taking ibuprofen. She's always having aches and pains. I teach jiu-jitsu. I'm having to take it like almost nightly. So, just stuff like that. They have, what is it, peroxide and alcohol are always on sale. You can buy these super jumbo tubs like this big of peroxide and alcohol for like 90 cents.
And that's at least the guys. A little side note here, and Jack leading in that. The Dollar Tree is a great place for medical preps.
Definitely.
Is it the best quality? No, but to get your kick started with peroxide, with alcohol, with some basic bandages, the Dollar Tree is $1. I mean, I've done huge bottles.
Right, and it doesn't take a lot of money to get you started with some basic stuff. I mean, basic stuff. Go to the Dollar Tree. Go to Walmart. Around here we have the Dollar General. Go in there, get you a box of Band-Aids, get you a big thing of peroxide, big thing of alcohol, some gauze. You're in it, maybe some a few meds that are cheap. You're in it, maybe $10, $15, and you have a pretty decent little starter kit there.
It's true. It's true. And that's the kind of principle we follow. I got 2 daughters at home. My wife, has certain issues, so we make sure we have a fully stocked cabinet. And again, when you say stockpiling, to me, I stockpile food. I do have some stockpiles of food.
Well, we like to eat, so yeah.
Yeah, I like to be a big boy. So my stockpile would turn some heads. My medicine stockpile, I don't call it a stockpile because it would not turn heads. It's not just a medicine cabinet in my bathroom. It's one of the cabinets in our kitchen. It's 3-tiered, and it has all of our medical medicines in it. And same thing as Jack. When we go to Costco, it's like Sam's Club. At least once a year, I get the 500 count, 1,000 count Tylenol, ibuprofen, Aleve, store all that back. Antidiarrheals, antacids, Benadryl, Mucinex, whatever that generic, it's called Waffle something.
Right.
Whatever I try and have every basic over-the-counter medicine, generic, in high quantities, stored at all times. Because if you did enter a grid-down scenario, those items would be in high demand.
Now, you store medications like that. Two things I'd like to touch on right there. One is you need to make sure that you rotate, and I know you know this, but I'm throwing this out there for our viewers and listeners. Make sure you rotate your medications. There are some medications that if you keep them much longer than what the expiration date is on them, they actually, not only will they lose their potency, they can actually become toxic. So you need to be careful. Go in, look at your medications. If you hit the expiration date, you'll probably be all right a few months past that. But if you have something in your medicine cabinet right now that was labeled expired in 2012, by all means throw that garbage out. Get you something that's not going to be toxic, that you're not going to have to worry about causing more damage than good. Also is the subject of antibiotics, and that's kind of a controversial subject, and the reason why is you can't just go into your local Walmart and buy antibiotics.
Correct.
So what I do is, and I'm sure a lot of other people do this as well, if there's some antibiotics and they have been left over from an infection that I had last year, I save them. I save them back, and chances are you're going to get the exact same thing. Should you get the exact same infection this year, save them back. And I go one step further, and I actually get my antibiotics from. I got a nurse friend of mine, and he kind of gives me the hookup on the antibiotics. So I can say, hey, I think there might be a round of staph infection going around my dojo. Could I get a 50 K-Flex or whatever, and he'll hook me up with some K-Flex or whatever, and if anybody comes down with it, I'm like, here, take this for 2 weeks, you'll be good to go, you know what I mean? And it's what they're going to prescribe. You can go to the doctor and get a prescription for it, whatever, and go pay $120 plus your insurance, or you can just keep it should you have an infection later and use it then. Don't throw that stuff away, and like I said, if it's not expired, keep that on hand. You never know when you're going to need a round or two of antibiotics.
Exactly. That's what we do too. We definitely hold them back. I've actually, for my gastro reasons, I've been off antibiotics. I don't believe I've ever had anything I have needed them for in the last year. So the ones I have put back are getting kind of expired and old. But I know, so we definitely do that. But I know also, I know Patriot Nurse has an excellent video on this, fish antibiotics. Now that could be a whole
show
people.
by itself. Yeah, I was going to mention that, but I was kind of hesitant.
We're going to end it there. But look it up, fish antibiotics. They're antibiotics that are pretty much the same things for humans, and you can get them without a prescription. But again, proceed with caution. Know what you're doing, and listen to people far more educated than Jack and I on that matter.
Definitely. So speaking of that, let's go into a little bit of the you kind of talked about it at the beginning, kind of home remedies / homeopathic / like essential oils and stuff like that.
Yeah. First off, just dovetail off we just ended. I didn't show. I do carry a small pack of all different, like 2 or 3 of each kind of over-the-counter medication. I'm always the person of finding Tylenol. David has some, and guys, I can't tell you enough. Butt putty. If you travel, butt putty is my redneck term for antidiarrheal. Guys, that will save you more than you can realize. So trust me. Never be without a small pack of medication. Throw it in your purse, throw it in your work bag, whatever. Anyway, we're in the modern age. Obviously, we have medicine. We're not caveman, cavewoman. But, obviously our ancestors, hundreds of years ago had to survive somehow. They didn't do it as well as we did. That's arguable, but probably pretty true. So they use basic medicine things. Now, natural medicine, homeopathic, again, whole other podcast series, which we're probably not going to do. But educate yourself on it, research it. I do use essential oils. This is peppermint by Plant Therapy. I use Plant Therapy and I use Young Living. I'm not a snob about it, so people get caught up in one brand. Don't worry about that. But basically, this is plant, or I guess plant extract is the best way to put it, and it's for different remedies. So peppermint, like right now, because it's really cold out and the heat, I kind of got a mild headache. So after the podcast, I'll put a drop of this on my temples and the back of my neck, and it saves me from having to take Tylenol or ibuprofen, and it feels great. So there's essential oils for everything. But again, a whole other topic. Look that up and educate yourself and see if you want to do that. And also, just homeopathic stuff. I know in my training with Patriot Nurse, she recommends to have organic honey on hand. And if you're in a grid down scenario, you're dealing with a nasty wound. Her principles are get it clean, keep it clean, and facilitate healing. You clean with whatever you got, but preferably saline, but you get it clean, and then to facilitate healing, you would put organic honey on it, which I guess has some natural makeup that could help heal a wound. Is it as good as going to the hospital? Probably not, but if you don't have any other options, I'll take the organic honey.
Right.
So definitely research some different homeopathic natural things. Keep those put away too. And what I also do is I have some books on hand. I have the Essential Oils Guide. There's several different ones on Amazon. I actually have a little bit older Physician's Desk reference book. Again, most of it's foreign to me, but if we were in a grid down scenario, I learned how to read it. And then don't get the newest one. Get one that's a few years old. Get I think it's called the Nurse's Pill Bible, and basically it's the guidebook they have in hospitals for nurses, all the different kinds of medication, how to identify it by the number on there, what are the properties for it, and how it's used. So those are some cheap books you can get. Just keep them back. I'm big on having everything digital, but for grid down, you want the paper you can hold in your hand. Have those books put back. But again, that homeopathic essential oils, that could be a whole nother episode. But just like everything, like in this podcast, where we're trying to spark your interest, get you to realize how much maybe you don't know and what you need to learn. And definitely, when you look at your whole arsenal for how you're going to do medical preps, a little bit, or at least some of it, should be natural medicine, because you got to know where the stuff came from.
Right, and you won't always have access to your Walmart, your Costco, your Sam's Club. You won't always have access to these places. You can't always get the meds that you need, and it's nice to know, hey, I can go out and I can get this plant, or I can get this or that I already have on hand, and it has a lot of the same properties, and I can do the same. Will it do as good of a job? Maybe, maybe not, but it's better than the nothing that you had. Exactly.
So definitely, it's worth the research on. And there's some people in this community you'll find that are just I'm kind of all natural, but I'm very into combining both together, the natural and modern medicine.
I think your approach is the best approach. I really do. I think that is the best.
Works out well for me and my family, so that's all I can say with that.
I think that's the best way to do it right there. I mean, I'm not one of those people that, no, you got to keep everything 100% organic, 100% all natural. Yeah, you can do that. That's fine, but I'll be honest with you. If I come down with the flu, I want some antibiotics. You know what I mean?
Tamiflu. You want Tamiflu.
Yeah. Well, I
wish you could buy Tamiflu, but it's hard to do. So.
I just got done with, right before the podcast, I just got done with a cup of Theraflu. And if it wasn't for Theraflu in the past week, I wouldn't be able to function. I'll just be honest with you. So I've been taking Theraflu in today, and yeah, I know acetaminophen is turning my liver into a piece of charcoal. I understand.
I've been told by a doctor, pick your poison.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. It takes a certain amount of acetaminophen to start affecting your liver. Once you get past, I think it's 2,000, 3,000 milligrams a day, you start to cook your liver. About the same as you would if you're drinking a 6-pack of beer a day. All right. That being said, I take, and this goes back to the homeopathic, I take something called milk thistle. So whenever I'm taking high doses of acetaminophen, I'll also take 1,000 milligrams of milk thistle every day, and milk thistle actually helps to protect your liver and heal your liver. So I'll also take that in conjunction with it, so I'm actually protecting my liver while I'm having to take these meds. And most of these medications, the acetaminophen, the Aleve, the stuff like that, you don't want to take a lot over a long period of time, and that's that way with any medications. You want to limit how long you take them, the duration, and the amount that you take. Take just enough to do what you need done. Don't exceed that, and don't extend it for a long period of time. Now, if I took 2,000 milligrams of acetaminophen per day for a couple of months, I'd probably end up in the hospital with liver failure. Use some common sense with this stuff, guys.
Exactly. No, that's you definitely want to use common sense with all that stuff, and
definitely
I've heard doctors tell me, well, Tylenol has this negative effect, ibuprofen has this negative effect, so choose which negative effect you want. Right, but again, don't go overboard, and that is one reason why I incorporate essential oils into my medical preps.
Right, there's no free ride. There's no free ride.
No, there's no free ride.
Well, let's go on to some medical equipment.
Okay, basically, you know, again, this kind of goes back to when we talked about the blowout kits. There's basic medical supplies you want to have on hand. That's not just related to stop bleeding or trauma. A blood pressure cuff and a stethoscope. Now, I will say I have taken the training how to use that. I'm still not very good at reading a blood pressure the old-fashioned way. So what I did was I bought a blood pressure machine, like it's like $50 at Walmart. You actually get it cheaper on Amazon. And you put the cuff on, press the button, and it takes your blood pressure. Probably saying, David, you're in your 30s. Why are you taking your blood pressure? My wife has high blood pressure, just for some hormone issues she has.
So do I.
So we have to monitor that when they're getting bad to make sure we don't have to go to the hospital. And it actually, I think it saved her life once when she thought she was having something else. It turned out to be high blood pressure. Without us having that blood pressure cuff at the house, she wouldn't have known. So, you know, you want stethoscope, blood pressure cuff, definitely a thermometer to take a temperature. You know, even if you're a single male and you think, I don't get sick but once every 10 years, you want to be able to take someone's temperature.
Right.
Ample amounts of gloves, ample amounts of a mask. I would definitely, and then once you receive your training, beyond basic first aid training, you'll get exposed to some of these different pieces of equipment, and what you feel comfortable with and what's readily available on Amazon, or I bought a lot of mine just to the Patriot nurse at her training site. Right. You'll be able to see what you feel comfortable using and what you need for your household. But basically, if I had to sum two things up for you in this whole podcast, it's this. When you're thinking of medical preps for your house, so I'm not talking bleeding out, but just your sick kid, sick child, you're sick, my main goal, my main theme I strive for is I do not want to have to go to Walgreens at 2 in the morning, okay? Right. If my daughter's puking, if my daughter's running a fever, my wife's sick or whatever, I want to make sure I have all the medicine and basic equipment on hand to handle something to get me through the night, okay? Right. And just that's being prepared. That's avoiding that European grocery shopping mentality where when I need it, I'll go get it. That's a completely horrible mentality to have in life.
Yes, it is. I agree.
So that's my theory for that. And then basically, guys, when it comes to what we've talked about with first aid with bleeding and everything, basically you want to stop bleeding and keep people breathing. And if you have to do that with a shirt and all you have to protect yourself from their mouth is a dirty sock, anything is better than nothing. Right. You want to have the tools on hand, but basically, guys, if you see bleeding, stop it and do what you got to do to keep somebody breathing. And hopefully, we're not in a grid down scenario, and the professionals will show up. But
and that's the worst. Like I said, that's the worst feeling is to be standing there completely helpless because you have no idea what to do, and you're watching a person suffer. You're watching a person die in front of you, and you have no idea what to do. That is the worst feeling ever, and I know from experience that is one of the worst feelings that you could possibly have. Is like I said, I've seen many car wrecks, and I was in my teens, and I stood there and watched a woman. Basically, she just had a car wreck, and my cousin and I were the first people there. I was 14, I guess. He was, I don't know, 16, 17, and we stood and we didn't know what to do other than call 911. We didn't know what to do to help this lady, and she didn't make it. And we stood there and basically watched her die in front of us because neither one of us, I'm not saying we could have saved her. I don't know. Maybe she was too far gone. Maybe, I don't know. If a paramedic had been there, maybe he couldn't have saved her. But that helpless feeling of just sitting there, not being able to do anything because you have no idea, that's awful. And you never want to go through that if you can avoid it. You want to be the person who, even if you don't necessarily know exactly what to do, you have the stuff there to do with for the people that do.
So. Exactly, and that's the truth. And again, like whole theme of this too, you never know when you'll be the first responder, as the skinny medic would say. You don't be someone like Jack has said, where you stand there and like, well, they're bleeding out. What do I do?
What do I do? Exactly.
Stop the bleeding. I don't care if you got nothing. Like take your shirt off, wrap it around them. That's in a fashion show. Stop the bleeding. So
exactly.
Part of it is mental. Part of it is getting. But I think this whole podcast series, all this mindset we're trying to get people in, is not to be the bystander, whether it's medical or combatives or protection, but to be that responder. Respond to the threat. And if that threat's somebody's life, then it's time to be that good Samaritan and step up.
And you'd be surprised. I think that I have a lot of friends in the tactical community, and we kind of keep it, the way it's set up nowadays and the way certain political aspects are, we don't advertise it. But I found out real quick, just talking to people that I know, they have, thousands of rounds of ammunition, they have multiple AR-15s, AK-47s, they have body armor, they have all this. They don't have a simple first aid kit.
Yeah. If you can make a hole by shooting somebody,
exactly, one can be made. Chances are real good. Chances are really good if you're in a situation where you have a fully loaded battle dress with a plate carrier and pouches and a battle belt and an AR-15 or an AK, and you're in that scenario, you're very likely to get ventilated at some point, or at least be around someone who is. And to not have any type of medical training or a basic blowout kit in that scenario is beyond me. And I know people who do that. I know people who are like that, and that's really what we're trying to avoid here. It's a common sense thing, and the thing is that right there is an extreme example. It really is. But like David said, every time his daughter goes outside, she scrapes her knee.
She does, and you got to respond to it, and
you do.
Just to think, oh, it's just a scrape, rub dirt on it. No.
Yeah,
something can become infected quickly, and that's why people stay alive longer now in some respects, because we know how to respond to
if you're living your life, and you do more than just sit on the couch and watch YouTube videos all day, you're going to get scraped, bumped, bruised, cut. Something at some point is going to happen to you. I have 2 to 3 jiu-jitsu classes per week, and every single class I get cut, I get scraped, I get a bloody nose, I get bruised, I get something minor happens to me almost every class. And it does. When you're in a contact thing like that, it will. My daughter does gymnastics every single practice. She does this 3 hours a day. She comes home, she will have, scratches, bumps, scrapes. She will have ripped all of her calluses off. I mean, there's always something. And if you just, like David said, if you just let those things go unattended, infection can, especially at a dojo or, a type of scenario where you're sweating, staph infection is really bad.
Oh.
You don't want to deal with that. And, it can be prevented. Antibacterial cream, a little peroxide, a little alcohol, and you're golden. And it can be so easily prevented just by basic procedures. You don't have to go all out. But just wash it, keep it clean, put some antibacterial stuff on it, cover it up, and you're fine. And it's something that could turn into a major thing if you don't take care of it when it's a small thing. So I think that needs to be the take-home lesson right there.
Amen.
And like you said, we're just trying to make people aware of what they don't know, and kind of a common sense approach. You don't have to go out. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars on gear to be somewhat prepared, or more prepared than 95% of the people out there.
Exactly.
You can go to your dollar store, you can go to your Walmart, Costco, Sam's Club, whatever you got, and I would say for less than $20 you can come out more prepared than 90% of the people out there will be in a case of an emergency. Speaking of gear, David, do you have something you wanted to announce now that we have 100 Facebook likes?
Yes, as promised, when we reached 100 likes on Facebook, we are going to be doing the gear giveaway, and that is right now because we have 100 likes. So I dug through my never-ending stash of gear that I buy and don't use. This is a hope the camera's picking it up. It's a little bit bigger than my medical bag I keep in my truck, so I think this would be a great medical bag for somebody. It's actually generic. I got it off Amazon, but for being a generic bag, it's actually very sturdy and there's very good quality and good build. So this would be great to start your medical preps, or could be a small range bag, or anything of that nature. So this camo bag here will go to one of our lucky followers, and Jack, stop me if I'm wrong. I think the rules are you have to be subscribed to our YouTube channel and or share this podcast video, this medical prep video, on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, if you can figure that out. Did I say comment down below?
We do need a comment down below.
We need a comment down below. That's your entry. Like when you comment on this video, that's your entry. Right. And then to qualify your entry, I need to see you're subscribed to us through your YouTube channel, or you are sharing this video on social media, and you have to like us on Facebook, obviously.
And for guys that don't know, I mean, we're, you know, a lot of people see the YouTube video that may not realize we're also live on iTunes. So if you go to iTunes right now and you just do a search for The Realistic Prepper, we'll pop right up. Go ahead and download, you know, listen to the, I understand a lot of the visuals, like the show and tell we did today, you're going to kind of miss out there, but most of what we do is talk, and you're not really going to be missing out on a whole lot. If you just like to download it, listen to us in the background, you know, maybe you don't really necessarily care about every single thing we say, but I personally, I'll download a podcast and I'll let it run in the background until I hear something that I like, I pick up on, and then I'll listen to it, you know. So go to iTunes, download the podcast. If you don't want to sit here for an hour and watch us, you know, in our pretty faces, I don't know why you wouldn't.
Come on.
But I mean, you know, there's always iTunes, and like you said, you know, go to Twitter, Facebook, like us on there, share the video. It really helps us out a lot, you know. And we're not trying to make any money off this show. That's not why we're doing it. We're doing this show just to get awareness out there and to make people think, and that's why we're doing this. And if we should help some people doing what we enjoy, then all the better.
So we will pick a lucky winner from the comments randomly. I'm not expecting a slew of comments. We're still growing, but I'm sure there'll be enough that we can select a winner. And hopefully, if we do have an entry, then we will be giving this away in our next podcast. We will announce the winner. I'll also contact you first via Facebook or YouTube, probably a message or something. We'll figure out a way to get a hold of you. So
sounds good.
I think that's about it, Jack.
I think that's about it, and I appreciate everybody for tuning in. People that sat through our video, I really appreciate it. Anyone who downloaded the podcast through iTunes, I appreciate the download. And like I said, guys, just share with your friends. Let's get it out there. You know, social media, like, comment, subscribe. It all helps out, and it lets us know that we're reaching the people that we want to be reaching, and we actually have a voice out there. So I appreciate everybody watching. David, until next time.
Okay, see you later.
See you later.